So today's topic is the moving coil galvanometer. So from the name itself, can be seen that moving coil, it actually consists of a moving coil, a coil which actually rotates. So galvanometer, the word galvanometer actually stands for any device which actually detects electric current. When current is passing in a wire, that current actually can be detected by means of this device called as galvanometer. And also not only it can detect, it can also measure, but measurement will not be so accurate in a galvanometer. It requires a small correction, a small adjustment. If that adjustment is made, then the galvanometer is called as ammeter. So then it can measure current very accurately as required. So there is no end for accuracy of measurement. So but still as accurately as possible, we can increase the accuracy as much as possible in this device called ammeter. So it's nothing but a modified galvanometer. Small adjustment is made. So firstly, so basic meaning of galvanometer is basically it's used for detecting or detection of electric current. When current is flowing through a wire, whether it's flowing towards the right or towards the left, that can be actually known. And whether current is flowing at all or not, that also can be known using the device galvanometer. So moving coil, why it's called moving coil? The reason is it consists of a coil. Right? So basically it consists of a rectangular coil like this. So when current is passed through the rectangular coil and this rectangular coil is placed in a magnetic field, some magnetic field it's placed, then the coil actually experiences a torque. It turns. A turning effect is experienced. This turning effect is simply called as torque. Either clockwise it can turn or anti-clockwise it can turn. So by measuring the angle of deflection, angle through which it rotates, it is possible to measure how much current is passing through the coil. So that's the basic method by which moving coil galvanometer works. So firstly, the basic principle is a coil carrying current placed in a magnetic field experiences a turning effect. That's the basic principle on which the moving coil galvanometer works. So construction. Now construction actually the diagram already I have drawn the diagram. So to save some time. So this is the coil actually. So the same coil, rectangular coil PQRS. Now this is placed in a magnetic field. Now this magnetic field actually is produced by a magnet, a circular magnet. So it's almost like a horseshoe magnet. We know horseshoe magnet, it looks like this way. This is the north pole, this is the south pole. Both the faces, north and south poles, will be almost facing each other. Circular magnet, what happens? Exactly, they'll be facing each other like this. So this is the north pole and this is south pole. Exactly, they'll be facing it. This end will be the north pole and this end will exactly they'll be facing. That's called a circular magnet. Almost, it is in the form of a circle. So this is the north pole. It can be seen. This is the south pole. And just see the remaining diagram. So actually, only part of this circular magnet is drawn. The reason is only poles are important, and the magnetic field between the poles only is important. Only that is actually carefully drawn in almost full detail here. So the remaining magnet, circular magnet, actually it goes like it starts from here, say north pole, it goes like this, like a circle, and again it comes like this, and it will be ending at the south pole. That way it looks like so, such that north and south poles will be exactly facing each other. Now just see here, both the ends of the that is both the north pole end and the south pole end, you can see that they are exactly facing each other. Now from the front see here, this is called front view. That means what is front view here? Just see the coil PQRS. So imagine that the coil PQRS is present in the plane of the blackboard. So this is the plane of the blackboard. So actually here we are using a screen here, white screen. Supposing in the classroom it will be a blackboard. So imagine that the rectangular coil PQRS is exactly lying in the plane of the blackboard. Then when we are standing in front of the blackboard or sitting observing it from the blackboard in front of the blackboard, so this is called as front view of the coil. Now the same coil can be seen even from the top by going above the coil. That's called top view. So here we are considering only mainly the front view. Top view also will be useful. Little later this will be coming. So most of the diagram already I have drawn. So actually it's not full diagram, only as much as possible I have drawn it. So during the derivation, during the complete completion of the answer, remaining diagram also will be coming. So this is the coil PQRS, rectangular coil PQRS, placed in between the two magnetic poles. Now just in the front view, it can be seen that the edge, this edge, vertical edge of the north pole and vertical edge of the south pole, they are exactly straight edges. But if you see the complete face of the north pole is actually facing the south pole, and the complete face of the south pole which is facing the north pole, these faces are concave faces. So the faces or the surfaces of the north and south poles facing each other, they're actually concave surfaces. So the poles are called concave poles. Concave means curving inwards. So actually, they are actually both these concave poles are actually cylindrical. They are parts of imaginary hollow cylinder. So if we consider a cylinder like this, for example, a cylinder will be looking like this actually. So actually, the diagram, if I draw the cylinder here, it will be congested. So almost it looks like this. So I'll do one thing. I'll just use a different color so that the cylinder can be drawn like this. So this way, I'm just using a dash line like this. It will be looking like this way. The cylinder looks like this way. So just see the surface. So what is the lateral surface of a cylinder? So just see this surface from outside. If we see it's convex, it is curving outwards. From inside the cylinder, imagine the cylinder is hollow. From inside, if we see it's concave. So that way, from inside this volume, space between the north and south poles, you can see that both these faces, concave faces, they're actually part of a imaginary hollow cylinder. That's why the concave faces are called as are said to be cylindrical faces. So now I'll just remove this imaginary cylinder so that diagram will be remaining the same. So it can be removed easily actually. So I'm just removing. Just see here the entire hollow cylinder, imaginary hollow cylinder I have removed. So diagram is as it is, the required diagram of the syllabus. So that's the thing. Now this cylindrical concave faces, when it is seen from the top, now the top view is important. This is the top view, say. This is the eye. From the top, if we are observing, so that the entire coil is below. From the top, if we see, we can just see the circular cross section of the cylindrical volume, of which the both the concave faces will be forming a part of this hollow imaginary cylinder. So from the top, if we see, we can just see the surface. It looks like almost like a circle, as I'm showing with the cursor. Compulsorily, whatever I'm explaining, I'm using the cursor. Compulsorily, you have to observe the cursor. So that's the thing here. Now the thing is, the magnetic field always, magnetic field is actually visualized, or it's almost like seen. It's like field is invisible. So to understand it more clearly, the best way is magnetic lines of force are drawn actually. Magnetic lines of force are considered. Always magnetic lines of force already you have learned previously from the definition of most powerful things in science and technology are definitions. So just check the definition of magnetic line of force. Magnetic line of force always it will be directed away from the north pole and towards south pole. So it can be seen that the magnetic lines of force are directed now away from the north pole means it will be towards the right. Towards south pole means as usual it will be towards the right. So lines of force are starting from the north pole here and moving directed towards the south pole. Now the magnetic field in between these two magnetic poles, it can be seen that the lines of force appear as parallel. So this field appears to be a uniform field. You know, uniform field is a very simple field. Now here, to make the derivation even more simpler, a slightly modified field is actually taken here. It's not exactly uniform field. It has its own property. So immediately the property can be understood in the next step itself. Immediately next step itself, it can be understood more clearly. Now that's the main purpose of the concave poles. They don't make exactly uniform field, but slightly it has a different property that's actually more useful than a uniform field, especially in this particular situation. So immediately in the next step, it can be understood more clearly. So now that's the, so now simple thing is the lines of force are directed from the north pole to the south pole. Now the coil is actually suspended between the two poles by means of, it can be seen that here at bottom one wire is seen W, at the top also one wire along with some E, alphabet E is shown here. That's actually a spiral spring. Now both these wires, bottom wire W and top wire W, they are actually made from a special alloy called phosphor bronze. Phosphor bronze. It's actually a mixture of bronze and phosphorus. So this phosphor bronze alloy has a very special property. It can turn, it can get twisted very easily. It can get twisted very easily, as easily as a silk thread. But lengthwise, it's as strong as steel. So that way, by means of the phosphor bronze wire and the spring W and the spring E, the coil remains suspended almost at a fixed position so that it can't get displaced. It can only rotate about the wire axis. It can rotate when a torque acts on the coil. That's the purpose of the phosphor bronze wire W and the spiral spring E. Both are elastic. They have high, very good elastic properties. So now, so this is about the main description of the apparatus. So now what is the purpose of the concave north and south poles? The purpose is they help in making the field radial. How they make the field radial? This can be understood like this. And another very important thing is, okay, firstly, how they make the field radial. What is this radial field? Now just observe here. Now this is the front view. Now what about the top view? From the top, if it is seen, one very important thing is both these faces. Clearly it can be seen that because they are cylindrical faces, both the north and south poles, they from the top if it's seen both the faces, they appear to form a circular shape. It looks like this. So already this diagram also I have drawn to save the time. So that diagram I'll just show it from here. So it's actually in the next page. I'll just copy it here, copy and paste it in the actual syllabus diagram. This diagram is actually very simple. So I'm just drawing it here. I'm just pasting it here so that a lot of time can be saved. Now drawing of the diagram also. So always I said immediately after the topic explanation is completed, once you have listened to the topic, immediately you should take the running notes. Running notes, how to write the running notes also I'll tell in the last 5 or 10 minutes. Within 5-10 minutes it can be completed quickly as possible. It should be completed so that always so entire answer, full detailed explanation must be covered. The reason is not just board exam. Each and every step was actually devised by scientists so that any kind of problem, a real life problem or a numerical problem, can be very easily solved just by going through the entire procedure, entire setup of the experiment. So each and every detail has a particular reason. So most of the reasons are nothing but based on very simple laws related to the lesson and the previous lessons and very simple scientific definitions. So no detail should be missed. And always for the board exam, the important answer, this is a very important answer. Just see the marks, 8 marks and 5 marks. So board exam maximum marks, most of the boards, the maximum marks will be around 8 marks, and sometimes some boards carry even 5 marks. So this always carries maximum mark because this has so many details, the particular apparatus, moving coil galvanometer apparatus or device or experiment. So now this is the top view. So from the top if we see, now just observe here, from the top if we see, now just see the concave poles, they are actually cylindrical. So from the top if we see, this north pole concave pole curved inwards can be seen like this. South pole, the cylindrical concave face, it can be seen like this. Now just see here, I'm just again using the yellow color. See here, so I'm just extending the poles. See here, now it can be seen that this forms an almost circle. So this is the top circular cross section of the imaginary cylinder, of which both the surfaces, north and south faces form a part. So it looks like a circle. So then this will be the center of the circle. Now what is the distance between any point on the circle to the center? This distance I'm just showing with the same, using the same color, yellow color. This will be the radius. Now here see the magnetic lines of force. Always magnetic lines of force will be starting normal to the surface of the magnetic pole. So normal, what is normal to a circle? Only radius. So line of force is normal means it's along the radius. So all the lines of force, you can see that they are along the radii, different radii of this imaginary circular cross section. That's why the field is said to be radial. Now what is the purpose of radial field? It's not exactly uniform field. It's not exactly really uniform field, though effectively it's really like a uniform field, because the field experienced by the vertical sides is important, PS and QR. So these two fields, the field experienced by the vertical sides PS and QR, because they lie at the same distance from the center, both will be having the same magnitude. The field acting on the vertical side PS and QR, because they'll be really experiencing the forces which actually give rise to the torque or turning effect on the coil. You can just check it later after the class, or even now, just you just pause it a little, immediately you can check it. Both will be experiencing the same field. So radial field means from the center, at equal distances from the center, same field will be acting. That's very simple important property of the radial field. So as it turns, Both these vertical sides will be lying at the same distance as they turn, as the coil turns about its axis. Which is the axis here? The turning axis and the phosphor bronze wire. So distance will be same. So always the vertical sides experience the same field. That way it acts effectively acts as a uniform field. Now most important thing, it remains a radial field. The lines of force, you can see that almost they are converging. They will not be two lines of force, 90 lines of force never intersect. They will be almost converging, but without touching. Actually, again they will be diverging here again back towards the south pole. That way, the lines of force are actually present. Now just see here. Now the important thing is here, how will be the coil looking like from the top when seen from that? So now the surfaces, you can be seen that they actually clearly they form an almost a circular cross section, an exact circular, or not almost, exact circular cross section of the imaginary hollow cylinder, of which the two concave north and south poles form a part. Now how does the coil look like when it is seen from the top? So when it is seen, when the coil is seen from the top, now from the front view, in the front view, as we see the coil from the front of the board or the screen here, we can see the full rectangle. The length PS we can see, the breadth PQ, everything is clear. But from the top, if we see, we can see only the breadth PQ. It looks just like a straight line. Now just see here, initially the plane of the coil. Now two very important points in the circular magnet is, so I'll just use again the same regular colors. Now the center of the north pole, so I'm just showing it by a point here. So center will be somewhere here inside the exact, almost the center of the volume of the north pole, somewhere here it will be. So if I draw it here, actually it will be looking a little difficult to use the center. So I'm just showing the center here inside, well inside the top surface. The center of the south pole, this is the exact position, location of it can be taken as the exact location of the south pole. Now an imaginary line joining the center of the north pole and the center of the south pole is simply called as magnetic axis. So this is the magnetic axis, the circular magnet's axis. It's the magnetic axis. Now this is the magnetic axis. Similarly, in the top view also, north and south poles, you see here, this is the center of the north pole, this is the center of the south pole. So this is the axis of the magnet or magnetic axis. Now just see the plane of the coil. Initially the plane of the coil is parallel to the axis. So definitely it can be seen that it's also parallel to the magnetic field also, as can be seen from the magnetic lines of force. They almost appear to be uniform lines of force in the front view actually. But from the top, if we see, we can just see the field is really not uniform but radial. So where the lines of force are closely converging, there the field will be very strong, and where they are a little apart, well apart, so close to the surface of the, that is face of the north pole or face of the south pole, the field will be a little weaker. So that's why it's, but at the same distance, all the points which lie at the same distance from the center of the circular cross section, the field will be same. But close to the center, field will be stronger. Away from the center towards the face of the north pole or south pole, field will be weaker. So now again coming back here, the plane of the coil, you can see that it's parallel to the axis, magnetic axis of the circular magnet. That's the thing. So now how does this coil look like from the top? Now from the top, if we see, just observe here carefully, observe the cursor compulsorily. Only the top breadth of the coil can be seen, PQ, and the entire coil will be hidden below the breadth PQ. It can't be seen. The entire coil can't be seen when seen from the top. This is how it looks like. This is the breadth PQ. Now current passing through the coil, it's denoted as I, which actually has to be measured. Say it has to be measured or it has to be detected. So it's actually flowing in the clockwise direction in the wire PQRS. So from the end P to Q, it's flowing. That's the direction of the current. So from the top, if we see, it can be seen clearly. There, this is the point P, left hand P of the breadth PQ, left hand P, and this is the right hand. So only the breadth can be seen. So the entire coil is hidden where, when you see from the top, it will be hidden below the breadth. So it will be under the breadth PQ. That's the important thing here. Now here a circle also can be seen. What is this circle means? It's actually a core inside, core, magnetic core it is actually. It's actually simply called as core. It's a soft iron core. It's made up of a special iron called as soft iron. Soft iron is a very strong magnetic material. Now the purpose of a soft iron core is it increases the magnetic field very strongly, 1,000 times, almost 1,000 times it increases, not just 100 or 200 times, but 1,000 times. Due to this, deflection of the coil will be increasing many times, almost 1,000 times it increases. That's why the moving coil galvanometer is extremely sensitive. Even 10 power minus 9 amperes, that means almost 0.0090 will become 9 digits. after decimal point, 0.00000 like that. 10 power minus 9 amperes also, it shows a huge amount of deflection. That's the sensitivity of a moving coil galvanometer. So it has wide applications, almost many devices, even a highly accurate current, that is highly accurate illumination meter. A meter which measures the brightness of light is required. A very highly accurate device is illumination meter, or intensity of light measuring device, photometer. It's also called photometer. Photo means light, meter means which measures the intensity of light. A very highly laboratory photometer is required. Ordinary photometers, they can measure intensity only roughly. Roughly means they are also sufficiently accurate, but extremely highly sensitive means again a moving coil galvanometer help has to be taken. So that way, moving coil galvanometer, is because of its high sensitivity, it has wide number of applications. Even ammeter and voltmeter are also constructed from a moving coil galvanometer itself. So now, so this is the plane of the coil. So PQRS. So initially it's parallel to the magnetic axis. So from the top, if you see, the breadth of PQ only will be visible. So now inside the soft iron cylindrical core, again, how a cylindrical core can be arranged? Just an ordinary cylinder. Just imagine the cylinder here this way. It's placed inside, exactly fitting the rectangular coil this way. So now the soft iron cylindrical core, when it is seen from the top cross section of the soft iron cylindrical core, it looks like this. See here, soft iron core. It's actually in the form of cylinder. So the top cross section, as usual, or any cross section of a cylinder, top or bottom. So imagine the cylinder here. This is the cylinder, say. This is the cylinder. Top cross section or bottom cross section or any cross section in between, it will always cylindrical. So this is how the top cross section of the soft iron cylindrical core looks like. So current is flowing. It can be seen in the breadth of PQ from P to Q. So it can be seen that this is the plane, the entire plane of the coil, rectangular plane of the coil, and it's seen from the top, it will be completely hidden below the breadth PQ. So this plane of the coil, you can see that initially it's parallel to the magnetic field. Lines of force, you see, this magnetic lines of force is exactly parallel to the magnetic lines of force, means parallel to the magnetic field. And also it can be seen that it's parallel to the magnetic axis of the magnet. Now once current is passed through the coil, immediately the coil will experience a deflection. It will show a deflection. It will rotate about the phosphor bronze wire axis. Immediately it will rotate, because any coil carrying current always experiences a torque, a turning effect. Now what is the reason for this? Now the reason for this is very simple. You have learned that an electric dipole, so this is an electric dipole, say, so minus q plus q charges, two equal and opposite charges separated by fixed distance is called as an electric dipole. Now when an electric dipole is placed in a electric field, say like this is the direction of this, say, electric field. I'm just showing an electric field. It's making an angle theta with the axis of the electric dipole. Immediately it will experience a torque. The electric dipole will experience a torque, and immediately the torque direction will be such that it will finally rotate into the direction of the electric field. Same thing will happen to a bar magnet also. The same diagram, see here, I'm just drawing the same diagram using a bar magnet. So this is south pole, this is the north pole. Supposing this is the magnetic field. Magnetic field vector is denoted as B. Electric field vector is denoted as E. This is the direction of the magnetic field vector or magnetic field. Immediately, now what happens is the bar magnet also will experience a torque, and this torque will make the bar magnet align itself into the direction of the field. Now the same thing happens here. Now you take a coil. Now I'm taking a circular coil. Each turn in the coil is a circle. It's called circular coil. But whatever coil we are using here is a rectangular coil. Each turn is a rectangle. Now here only one turn is shown, like that many turns will be there. So now a circular coil or even a rectangular coil, imagine that it has many turns, so it has some finite length also. When current is passed through a coil, we have already seen that any coil carrying current behaves exactly like a bar magnet. One end will behave as a south pole, the other end will behave as a north pole. So this will be the axis of the circular coil, so which is behaving as a magnet. So really this can be treated as the axis of the magnet itself. So now if a magnetic field is placed here, immediately, just like a bar magnet, it also experiences a torque. It also experiences a torque and it will come to rest into the direction of the field. Now the reason for this is very simple. Every coil carrying current behaves exactly like a bar. In every each and every way it behaves like a bar magnet. No difference will be there. There will not be any difference. So any bar magnet experiencing a torque. What is a torque experience? This derivation already we have seen in case of an electric dipole and also in case of a magnetic dipole also. Now what is the torque experienced by an electric dipole? The torque experienced by an electric dipole, we have called it as moment of couple or torque due to couple. C is equal to PE sine theta. So this is also called as torque due to couple instead of C. So actually here in this lesson only tau is used. Tau stands for torque. It's a Greek letter which is similar to the English letter T. So torque starts from letter T. That's why it's used to denote, tau is used to denote the torque. Now exactly similar expression is there even for a bar magnet. So P is the electric dipole moment, E is the electric field vector. So similar to electric dipole moment, a magnet has a magnetic dipole moment M. Similar to the electric field vector, the magnetic field vector B, and theta is the angle between the, what is theta here? Just see, theta is the angle between the electric dipole. Electric dipole moment is denoted as P. Its direction is taken from the negative charge to the positive charge. Magnetic dipole moment M. Electric dipole moment symbol is what? P. Its direction is taken from the negative charge to the positive charge. Magnetic dipole moment, its direction is taken from the south pole to the north pole. So theta is the angle between the magnetic dipole moment and the magnetic field vector. And here in case of an electric dipole, theta is the angle between the electric dipole moment P. You see here the figure is congested, so it doesn't matter because all both these topics already we have seen earlier. So I'm just showing the diagram only for as a revision. Any doubt is there, just pause the video and just check it once again. So all these things already we have already completed. Don't think much about them, they are very simple. So just see here, only 2 points are important here. One is dipole moment, electric dipole moment P. Its direction is from negative charge to positive charge. Next is magnetic dipole moment M. Its direction is from south pole to the north pole. Theta is the angle between M and B, and here theta is the angle between P and E. P vector and E vector. Here M vector and B vector. That's nothing. So that's simple, no complication. This is the equation for torque acting on a bar magnet. Now, a coil carrying current, each and every way it behaves exactly like a bar magnet. So this coil carrying current also behaves as a bar magnet, and whatever derivations we have already seen in case of a coil carrying current, what is the field on the axis of a circular coil at any distance. So you take the axis, this is the axis of the circular coil. If you take any distance on the axis at any point, what is the exact field? That field already we have seen the derivation based on Biot-Savart's law at the beginning of the lesson. Based on that particular derivation and whatever result that is obtained based on that particular result, many things can be actually proved related to a coil behaving exactly as a bar magnet. One such proof is, what is the torque acting on a coil carrying current? That can be shown to be exactly similar. Torque acting on a circular coil carrying current also can be shown to be mb sin theta, where m is the magnetic moment of the coil carrying current, whether it's a circular coil or a rectangular coil, any kind of coil. Now, what is the magnetic moment of a coil carrying current? Now, it can be shown that. So, whatever things we are seeing here they are not complicated, but too many details we are seeing at a time. The reason is all these details are interrelated. Any doubt is there, just pause the video and just check it once again. Just think a little, spend 2 or 3 minutes extra pausing the video. Immediate each and every doubt can be verified. Now one thing I want to say, now all the details we have actually proved using the simple derivation for magnetic field on the axis of a circular coil. Many details. What is the magnetic moment of a circular coil? Magnetic moment of a bar magnet. Already we have seen in the lesson magnetism and properties of matter. What is the electric dipole moment of electric dipole also we have seen. Then what is the magnetic moment of a circular coil? This also is proved from this particular derivation of magnetic field on the axis of a circular coil. It can be shown that the magnetic moment is exactly given by NIA. This is a very important formula. Magnetic moment of a coil carrying current. It is actually dependent on number of turns of the coil, current in the coil, and area of the face of the coil. What is the face? It's a circle. Area of a circle is what? Pi r square. This is a very, very simple result. And in terms of the NIA or magnetic moment of the coil, a separate derivation exists. A separate derivation. Using that separate derivation, it can be again proved that this is the last coinciding factor or common factor between a circular coil and a bar magnet, which completes the exact identical natures of circular coil and bar magnet. So it can be finally proved that whatever is the torque acting on a bar magnet, mb sin theta, same expression comes even for the torque acting on a circular coil. How much means it comes again as mb sin theta. You can just check the proof. We did not see the proof here because the proof is not much important. If depending on situation, I'll try to explain the proof, but that's not much required. Only some boards have that proof. You just check this. Very easily torque. How to measure the torque? So firstly, it can be proved that the two sides, vertical sides of the coil experience a couple. Then torque due to couple is what? Torque due to a couple, force into perpendicular distance. Based on that, in just two steps, this equation can be proved, where M is nothing but the magnetic moment of the circular coil, which from Biot-Savart's law or this particular derivation, magnetic induction on the axis of a circular coil. In that particular derivation, this actually fact can be proved. So I'm just really using many equations I'm using at the same time. So there's no confusion. These are facts. These are facts. Any doubt is there, put the video to a pause and just check it. But not now, later. Just think, I have to check this point. I don't know exactly the reason. Like that, you just remember that. And after the class, you just check it very easily. It can be covered. You can easily check it. But now coming back to this, so it comes to be mb sin theta. This is the best way to remember the torque acting even on a coil also. So it comes to be mb sin theta. So directly, what is the magnetic moment? I'll just substitute NIA into B into sin theta. So that's the equation. So this is the exact torque acting on the coil carrying current. It depends on the number of turns and current I. A is the area. What is the area of a face of the coil here? Rectangular coil, we are taking length into breadth. Length you call it as L, breadth you call it as B. So B is the magnetic induction, sin theta. Theta is the, what is theta here? Very simple. Theta is the angle between the magnetic moment or the axis of the magnet and the direction of the magnetic field. So this is the axis of the coil, current carrying coil, and the magnetic induction. But what is axis? Just see here. Axis is nothing but it's passing through the two poles of the coil. The two poles are what? The two sides of the coil. Now imagine the coil is actually a very lengthy coil I have taken, but imagine the coil to be a very, all the turns are close together, almost like a plane it looks like. It doesn't, its length is negligible, say. Then this is one face, south pole, and this is the other face, north pole. The two sides, they're really two sides. The coil is even more closely wound so that almost it looks like a single turn like this, then this is the south pole face, this is the north pole face. So axis will be like this. This is nothing but natural axis of the coil. Natural axis of the coil. Any line, straight line passing through the center and perpendicular to the plane is nothing but natural axis of the coil. So what is the natural axis of the coil? See here. What is the natural axis of the coil? It will be an imaginary straight line passing to the center. Just see here, this is the natural axis of the coil. Left side is south pole, right side is north pole. It's passing through the two poles. So it's actually perpendicular to the face of the coil passing through the center. That's the natural axis. So what the natural axis is? It's an imaginary straight line perpendicular to the plane of the coil and passing to the center. So it will be actually perpendicular means either it will be directed into the plane of the coil like this, cross denotes into, or dot denotes out of the plane of the coil. That means if we are taking the plane of the coil in the blackboard, so axis will be perpendicular to the blackboard like this, either directly into the board or out of the board. Just observe the cursor compulsorily. That's the natural axis. So now just see here, the plane of the coil is parallel to the field. Always it is parallel. It's in this diagram initially, before it gets deflected, it is parallel to the field. Now when it experiences torque, what will happen? Once it experiences torque, it will turn. In what direction it will turn means it can be proved that. So always why the magnet turns? It turns in such a way that based on the direction of the torque, so that finally it comes into the direction of the field. Once it comes into the direction of the field, angle theta becomes 0, then the torque will disappear. What is the torque? mb sin theta. Just see here, once again, mb sin theta. Once theta becomes 0, once the magnet comes parallel to the field, theta becomes 0, torque mb sin 0 is what? 0. So mb into 0 is 0. torque becomes 0, so there only it finally comes to rest. This is called directional property of the magnet. This is called directional property of the magnet, or even the directional property of the electric dipole in electric field. The same thing happens here. So the coil, just see here, initially the axis of the coil is perpendicular to the field. So immediately what happens is it will turn, it expends a torque such that the coil, the axis of the coil, natural axis of the coil is perpendicular to the coil. It tends to become parallel to the field. It tends to become parallel to the field. For that reason, it will turn. So what is the direction of this turning effect? What is the direction of the torque as seen from the top? If you see from the top, whether it will be clockwise like this, or whether it is clockwise, P goes inside the board, Q comes outside, or whether it will be anti-clockwise. It can be shown that the torque direction is actually clockwise like this. It will turn like this. P will go into the board, Q will be coming out of the board. Later you can just check it. It can be proved very easily, but we'll come back to the proof little later. So now it turns like this clockwise. As seen from the top, it will be turning clockwise. P goes into, Q goes outside. So this is the top view. P goes like this, actually rightwards. You can just check it. P goes rightwards, Q comes leftwards. That way it will be turned. And the plane of the coil, now it will be making an angle theta with the axis of the magnet, circular magnet. This is the axis of the magnet. So it makes an angle theta. Then how will be the diagram? The diagram looks exactly like this. I'll just show the diagram. So now this was the initial diagram. Now what I'll do is I'll just after deflection, that is what is important. The plane PQ, the breadth PQ represents the entire plane of the coil, because from the top view, in the top view, as we from the top, we can just see, we can't see the entire plane, rectangular plane of the coil, only the top edge or top side, breadth side PQ only will be seen. Entire coil, as we see from the top, will be hidden below the breadth PQ. So only the breadth PQ represents the plane of the coil. Initially it was parallel, now after deflection, so it will rotate like this way. I don't want to show this because the figure becomes congested. It will turn like this, the plane of the coil this way. This will go rightwards, P, and Q will come leftwards, as we see from the top, this way. It will go like this, P, Q will come like this. That way it will get deflected. It makes an angle theta. And how will be the diagram? The diagram looks like this. I'll just use the other diagram. Actually, there is no place here, so too many diagrams are there. So I'll just reduce this a little. Just here. So as much as possible, I want to keep as many figures as possible so that everything is clear. So now I'll bring the next diagram also. This diagram also already have drawn. So this is how it looks like. So just see here. Yes, this is the diagram. So after deflection, just see here, it's very simple. So whatever things we are seeing here are simple, nowhere any complication is there. So after deflection, so what is happening? P goes this side, Q comes this side. This is the top view. So it looks like this. So now see the plane of the coil. PQ represents the plane of the coil, the breadth PQ. So now it can be seen that clearly, very, very simple. It can be seen that, just a moment please. So I just want to take the tools actually. Writing tool I am trying to take. Okay, now it's clear. So this is the writing tool. So taking the writing tool. So this is the thing. Okay, this is the writing tool. So this is after deflection. So see here. So this is the axis of the circular magnet. So this is the center of the north pole, this is the center of the south pole. See the plane of the coil. It got deflected clockwise in the top view. So P has gone this way and Q has gone this way downwards. P has gone up, Q has gone down. So it's the new position. So it got deflected through an angle theta. So this angle is the angle of deflection. So I'll just call the angle by simple. So this deflection, because I don't want to use the same theta, because theta is the angle between the axis of the magnet and the magnetic field. So some other angle symbol should be used, phi. So phi is the angle of deflection. So that's the thing here. So whatever things we are seeing here are simple. So nowhere any complication is there? Okay, so this is the thing. This is the angle of deflection. So now once it gets deflected, what is happening is, even after deflection, just see here, the plane of the coil is still parallel to the field. The plane of the coil is still parallel to the field. Now that's the advantage of the radial field. Radial field automatically means that even after deflection also, initially the plane of the coil, initially before passing the current, it was parallel to the axis of the magnet, circular magnet. Even after deflection also, see the plane of the coil PQ, it is still along the radius, along the, that is radial field. So still it is parallel to the field. Parallel to the field automatically means that, what is the natural axis of the coil? Natural axis of the coil is, we have seen that it is perpendicular to the plane of the coil. This is the plane of the coil PQ direction. So natural axis means, already we have seen, it's an imaginary straight line perpendicular to the plane of the coil passing through the center. It will be like this, natural axis. So even now you see natural axis perpendicular to the field, so theta is 90 degrees. So this is a very, very important result. So now apply this here. Sin theta, theta is 90 degrees. Always, even after deflection, the plane of the coil is parallel to the field. After deflection also, the plane of the coil is parallel to the field. So the angle between the natural axis of the plane of the coil, natural axis of the coil and the magnetic field, theta is always 90 degrees. So sin theta is always 90 degrees, sin 90 degrees, sin 90 degrees is 1. So torque is very simple, NIAB. So this is the torque which is actually deflecting the coil. Now once the coil is actually deflected by this torque, then what happens is, just observe here, once the coil gets deflected through an angle, any angle, immediately the phosphor bronze wire W and the spring phosphor bronze spring E apply an opposing torque, because they get twisted. Once they get twisted, they apply an opposing torque. Now that opposing torque is called as restoring torque, elastic torque. Now that restoring torque is proportional to the angle of deflection phi. The more the deflection, the restoring torque will increase. But what is the deflecting torque here? Deflecting torque is very simple. It's fixed constant. NIAB into 1. Sin 90 degrees is 1. N is constant, I is constant, A is constant, B is constant. So deflecting torque will never change. But restoring torque, as angle of deflection phi increases, restoring torque increases. And finally, the restoring torque becomes equal to the constant deflecting torque. Then the coil comes to rest. So after deflecting by a certain maximum considerable angle phi, it comes to rest when the restoring torque and deflecting torque are equal. That's the basic equation here. So when the coil is in equilibrium after deflection phi, considerable deflection phi, we can just equate the restoring torque and the deflecting torque. And from that particular equation, easily we can get the equation for current and deflection. Very simple. That's the end of the derivation. So in the next 1-2 steps, we'll be completing the derivation. So all these steps are very simple, nowhere any complication is there. Now what I'm doing is, so the derivation is almost completed. So now what I'm doing is, just see here, all this is rough work. All these are very important. So I'll just transfer them to rough page. So just see here. Actually, there is not. So this is the rough work actually. But each and everything is very important here. I'm just transferring them to the rough column, another rough page, and this is the diagram actually which is required for the syllabus. This is also top view only, but after deflection. Before deflection, top view is not required, because the first diagram of the moving coil galvanometer is before deflection. That is, one diagram is sufficient. But this second diagram is very important here, which also shows the angle of deflection. So this is actually the syllabus diagram. So this, I'm just copying it in the actual syllabus page. So this is the second diagram. This is top view, but after deflection. So we already have seen before deflection also. That's the actually bottom page. This page, this is not required actually. So I'm removing this. This in the notes. This is not actually not required. So if any doubt is there, I'm just keeping it in the rough page. Those who have doubt in this, those who are interested in this, because too many diagrams. Actually, derivation is very big. The answer explanation, all details are too big, too detailed, too many details are there. So all that is not required. So 8 marks it carries. So previously, long back, many years back, it used to carry 15 marks. Now it carries, most of the boards have reduced the maximum marks to only 5. So just 5 details are written. One or two details will be main diagrams. 3 points are written, that's sufficient. Full 5 marks can be obtained. So you have to write as little as possible to get the full 5 marks. So most of the details you have to skip off, but all the details you have to work out all the details, but you have to store them in a rough book. So this is the thing. So here always theta is what here? Theta is 90 degrees. So that automatically means that sine theta is 1 because theta is 90 degrees. So that means that the deflecting torque is simply very simple NIAB. So this is the very first equation. Now because the torque coil is getting, it's coming to rest, coming to equilibrium. Because it's in equilibrium, automatically it means that tau is equal to tau restoring. That's the next thing. So whatever things we are seeing here are simple. Nowhere any complication is there. So actually I'm taking another page. This actually called as paint page because Windows paint app is used here. So I've taken another page, paint page. So once the coil is in equilibrium, because it's in equilibrium directly, okay, I'll just because it's in equilibrium, automatically means that the deflecting torque and restoring torque are cancelling each other. They are set to balance. Balance means the word will not be clear. They are cancelling each other. They are equal and opposite, then only they can cancel and the coil comes to rest after deflection phi. So they are cancelling means they must be equal and opposite, so their magnitudes can be equated. So tau restoring is equal to tau deflecting. So this is the second equation. But what is tau restoring? So here the restoring torque from elasticity property of the phosphor bronze wire and strip, it can be shown that it is directly proportional to the deflection phi. Really, it has been proved that actually this actually can be proved from the definition of rigidity modulus, Hooke's law of elasticity. 3 moduli of elasticity, rigidity modulus. You just check the definition. Every proof comes from some law or some definition, scientific definition. This really comes from this particular equation directly comes from Hooke's law of elasticity, considering only the rigidity modulus. 3 modulus of velocity are there: rigidity, Young's modulus, bulk modulus, and rigidity modulus. From that this actually comes. So tau restoring can be now written as some constant into phi. Now this constant is taken as a k or a c, and this constant depends upon the phosphor bronze wire and spring, wire W and spring E. It depends upon. Simply it's called as restoring torque per unit twist or restoring torque. See here, C can be written as tau restoring divided by phi. What is tau restoring by phi? Restoring torque per unit deflection or unit twist. So that's the constant C here. So this equation is simply called as 3. So now substitute 1 and 3 into. So substituting 1 and 3 in 2. So 1 is what? The deflecting torque. 3 is what? The restoring torque. So I'll do one thing. Equilibrium automatically means that restoring torque is equal to deflecting torque. I'll first write deflecting torque first because first we derived reflecting torque. This can be called, this is the restoring torque. So I'll just write it in an orderly manner. So I'm just moving it a little so that everything looks symmetric. So restoring torque is equal to deflecting torque. So the only thing is I have written first deflecting torque is equal to restoring torque. There's not much difference. So now I'll substitute equation 1 in 2 and then left hand side and equation 3 into the right hand side. So then what happens? Tau is equal to NIAB. So there's not much big derivation you see. Only 3 steps. First step is tau we got. Second step is equilibrium condition. Third step is tau restoring. Then once 1 and 3 are substituted, immediately next step we'll get the answer. So almost in half step we'll be getting the equation between current and deflection. That's the final answer. Final step, final expression which is actually required in the derivation. There's no big derivation. So NIAB is equal to tau restoring is C5. So then I is equal to what? So next step will be I is equal to, so NIAB, I am keeping left hand side, NIAB, NAB taken to the right hand side, C5 is already there on the right hand side, C5 divided by NAB. So C by NAB is a constant here. So therefore, current passing through the galvanometer is C by NAB is entirely constant. It is simply called as galvanometer constant into phi. So this is the final equation. So this is the completion of the derivation as well as the topic. So where kg is galvanometer constant. So I'm not writing that. Actually, all this is running notes. So this running notes should be completed. So there's no problem here. Everything is simple. So very easily the running notes can be completed. So here actually some sentences will be coming, little explanation. All that will be very simple. So this is the completion of the entire derivation. I'm just drawing a line here. So running notes, it will take only 5 or 10 minutes or to actually I prepared the running notes video. It takes actually 5 to 10 minutes, but still 5 to 10 minutes means actually that's editing is becoming problematic. So I'm just directly putting the running notes page. I'm directly displaying the video. So I'm not just showing how to write the running notes. So already I have written it. The video, I'm just changing the video, directly giving it as a completed running note. So this is the moving coil galvanometer. Entire explanation is completed. The first principle, next construction, as it is, as we have seen in the explanation, as it is, I have written. So this is the thing. So two diagrams. This is the figure 1, the actual three-dimensional diagram, front view. So here x, just see here, x denotes the coil axis, the natural axis of the coil, which is an imaginary straight line perpendicular to the plane of the coil like this. Just observe the cursor compulsorily, and perpendicular to the plane of the coil, directed into the plane of the coil. That means into the plane of the screen here. So whether it is inwards or outwards, so perpendicular to the plane of the coil means either it can be inwards or outwards. Inward direction is actually shown by a cross. So why it is inwards? Already we have seen this in the while learning about the magnetic induction on the axis of a circular coil. In that topic we have seen. So you can just check that once again. Why, if you want to know why the direction of the axis is taken to be direction of the axis, really the direction of the magnetic moment of the circular coil. So that direction of the magnetic moment, it's actually directed into the plane of the coil depending on the particular direction of the current, which is clockwise. So this is the figure 1. Okay, just a moment. And next, so working in theory. So actually the notes I said should be as short as possible, because most of the boards presently follow 5 marks maximum marks for an essay answer. So only some boards carry 8 marks. Actually 8 marks also is too less. Previous years, maybe more than 10 years ago, it used to carry 16 marks. The essay questions, because that's the real scientific derivation or scientific experiment. So really, truly, it used to carry 60 marks. Even now, it deserves the same. But too many topics, so which is more important, which is less important, becomes very difficult to decide. That's why most of all the topics maximum marks is fixed at 5 marks. So even 5 points are sufficient. So construction I've written in full detail. Now here, most of the things it's better to skip off as much as possible. So just here, a soft and cylindrical core. So from here to here, this to the field B, I'm just putting in brackets and putting into means it's actually not required. So this is not required. I'm just mentioning it here. Actually, there is no place, not required. That means not required in the exam. So not required I kept. So there is no place actually here. So not required. So I'll use a different color. Light blue I'll use, not required, so that it doesn't disturb the actual thing. Not required I kept here, not required. So really not required means not required in the exam. So from here to here, so not required. In the exam this need not be written, but when you are taking the copying, immediately you have to copy down the running notes. Within 5 minutes it can be completed. In the examination it's not required. So it's just here a little only construction is written, and after that working in theory also just one paragraph. After that, directly derivation starts. This is second diagram actually, which is actually top view. Already we have seen. After the plane of the coil, PQ denotes the plane of the coil, which got initially it was present along the axis of the magnet. This dashed line is the axis of the magnet. Observe the cursor compulsorily. So initially plane of the coil PQ from here to here, P to Q. This is the PQ, P, and here Q. The plane of the coil initially was parallel to the axis of the magnet. Now it got deflected, so clockwise. So here this is the direction of the deflection. So see here this arrow, rightwards here is the direction of the torque clockwise. Similarly here also at the bottom also torque. So many details are there in the diagram, but not difficult. So just two diagrams. So the torque is actually given by mb sin theta. Always any bar magnet, torque acting on a bar magnet in a magnetic field is mb sin theta. So the coil is acting as a current carrying coil always acts as a bar magnet. So the diagrams for this actually previously we have seen in this page itself. I removed that and I kept it in a separate rough column diagram. Just see here. This is a separate rough column diagram. I kept it separately in the end. I just see here. This is a rough column. So this is the bar magnet. And this is the coil which is behaving as a bar magnet. Left hand acting as south pole, right hand acting as north pole. The magnetic field making an angle theta with the axis of the coil. So this axis of the coil direction is the direction of the magnetic moment of the coil. Magnetic moment of a coil or a bar magnet is M. So for a coil it is NIA. All these things we have seen. So many points are there here in the rough column. First point is diagram. Next M is equal to NIA. Next a coil of short length, south pole face, north pole face. This is even a thinner coil, south pole, north pole. So this is the natural axis of the coil. This is the electric dipole and this is the magnetic dipole. This is the formula for torque acting on an electric dipole, P sin theta. Similar formula is MB sin theta we have seen. This is a rough column. This rough column compulsorily, it is better to take all the points of the rough column here, which I have written separately here in rough column page. Actually this should be in the fair column page here. Because when you're taking the notes in the fair column, so this is the first page. So here you have a rough column on the right hand side of the page. In that it's better to take the rough column points. So now, so continuation of the derivation. So as it is already we have seen these steps. Now again you see here some explanation. This explanation page paragraph also I kept as not required in the exam. So next, this is the end of the page. So see here the page once again. You have to put this page, this particular minute. Most probably this is the 53rd or 54th minute. So I'll just mention this clearly in the summary of the video. You can just check it. So this page you have to put it in a pause and then take down the entire notes, running notes quickly. And then next, the second page is this one. This is the completion of the derivation actually. So see here, as it is, as you have seen in the explanation. So little explanation is there. Again, see here, this explanation again. So from here to here, again, this is again not required. So just write it more clearly. So this is again not required. So just write it more clearly. This entire explanation not required. It actually means not required in exam because there is no place here. Here I have written not required in exam clearly. And directly equilibrium. The coil is getting deflected by an angle phi and coming to rest. Rest means deflecting torque is equal to restoring torque. Tau is equal to tau restoring. That equation is written. That's sufficient. So 5 marks or even 10 marks or even 16 marks also, this is more than sufficient because too much explanation is not required. This much is sufficient. So this is the derivation, end of the derivation. So all the details, this is sufficient. So in the exam, it is written just one page, one full A4 size page it will be coming. So as an essay question, that's sufficient. So most of the explanation we are skipping off. So that's the completion of the derivation. Okay, quickly complete the running notes before returning the next topic.